Hello again, once more, welcome back to the cellar. A few quick updates before we get into the meat of this. I've had some bit of post, some heat sinks, power supply regulators, and a couple of microchips. Anyway, that's enough of that. I've also, as you can see, gotten around to spraying the roofs of these wagons. Haven't done anything else yet, so I can't really use them. That paint is a little bit fragile until it's finished. Anyway, today, this little guy, my little friend here, he's been off his coal recently. Let's have a look and see what we can do to sort this little fella out. Dr. Leopard is in the house. Yeah, this is Leopard Street. Anyway, to the desk. Okay, on a running track. So what's been the problem? Well, if you saw any of my videos on the automation system I'm using, this little J52 and the Scotsman looking over there were the two test locos. She was one of the most reliable I've got. And then she started behaving a bit odd. She basically was off the track for a while the layout was in bits, and wasn't the same since. So let's have a look, try and get her going. Bring her back. And here we have the problem. I'm trying to go in reverse. Doesn't want to do it. Forwards. Reverse. Not having it. And there is a noise, which is the sort of electrical noise I don't particularly like. So what we're going to do, I'm going to drop her on the desk, around here onto the desk. I'm going to find some screwdrivers, I'm going to take the bodywork off, and we're going to have a look. So I shall be back in a minute. Yeah, so here we are. Now, I've had this little beastie for a little while now. Let's have a look, see if I remember how to take her apart. I think these N2 screws, yeah, it's clipped at that end, so I don't actually need to undo screws to take her out. The screws are actually just holding the couplings, so I should be able to, at least I think that's how it works. Or maybe this back one's a little bit more. I'll take the couplings off anyway, it won't hurt. I mean, at some point, I wouldn't mind fitting some NEM pockets to this. Incidentally, these are RFID tags, which I have experimented with before on my little test plank upstairs. I will at some point power that back up. They're not interfering with the running, they're mounted on little foam blocks underneath. You see some people use RFID stuff on model railways to, there we go, chassis out. Obviously to identify trains, and you get the ones that say, I am such and such, and there we go. These ones you can program. Normally you just get an ID number back. These ones you can actually program. So, let me bring my light around here and a magnifier, and I can get in nice and close for myself and have a little bit of a look, and we'll see if I can see anything obvious. And the question, does the motor turn freely in both directions? Be careful, but seems to, so it doesn't seem like there's anything binding. Obviously traction tyres are traction tyres. The wheels aren't the cleanest in the world, but there we go. And as you can see, obviously, I've cut various wires in this, and I've sort of chipped her. So the motor's been out in the past. There is a screw. That screw holds it all together. but I don't think it's that because she's been running. What I was wondering was whether any of the wires had signs of having caught on anything. I don't think there are. I can't see anything. So the nicely sprung rear axle, which is actually not a bad touch on this, and the spring's not too bad either. So she sort of rides down on it, but if she goes over a bump, it'll keep the wheels in contact with the ground. I can see I might have to do a little bit of cleaning on the wheels. I was expecting to find something was catching, which is why it was stalling, going backwards, but I can't see anything. So I'm going to put it back on the track like this. I'm going to see if it makes any difference. Okay, here we go. So, just trying to move a few bits on the desk so I can get at the controls. Forwards direction, slowly. Little stalls. Not as smoothly running as she was. Another nudge. Try that again. A bit more beans. My fault, point went the wrong way. Let's see how she does. Let her do couple of laps going this way. Let's see how it runs. And it could just be she needs a little bit of lubrication and she's not been run for a little while and she's a bit poorly, but it would seem a little bit weird she'd go one way but not the other. Okay. She's gone past now. I'll have to let her go around on another run. I couldn't get at the stop button in time. As the delights of... yeah, I'm working on a controller. If you saw the rotary encoder video, I'm working on a proper controller for this. There we go, nice gentle slowdown. Move along a little bit. Reverse. Same speed setting. Again. Now she's been told to stop, but it's still going, so I'm wondering if there is an electrical problem somewhere. Anyway, we're back down to nothing. I'm hoping it's not the decoder. Well, there's a way of checking, which is clear out my programming siding. A dapple wagon that can't even run on straight track there. There we go. Pull that lot up, get them out of the way. Bring her back onto here. Come over here and flip the switch. Programming mode. Right. Okay, here the roster bit. Going to do is read the sheet. So we're reading that, so she's talking okay. Motor, see, this is all fairly normal stuff. Just looking to see if there's anything interesting in here that might be sorted out. Normal, yeah, normal. PWM frequency, speed control. We have a speed table. which is my that's my normal speed table. The function map is irrelevant. Analog controls are switched off. Consisting I don't care about. Motor braking, sound. Yeah, well, they usually don't have sound on this particular one. Yeah. Yeah. Don't have to read that. The reason I put it on the programming thing, I just wanted to see whether this was all reading, and so read the sheet. Speed table, read that. That one's alright. Motor, yeah, we read all of that. Okay, so that bit seems alright. As far as I'm concerned, that tells me the motor's probably fine. Yeah, what I'm going to do, analog controls, I'm going to allow analog. And the reason I'm going to allow analog is I want to be able to try and run it with a battery. So I'm going to set that up and have a look. So if you'll bear with me 1 second, I will reset that. Go over here and get the testing battery. Goes that way, all right. Goes that way, all right. Okay, that's odd. I'm going to put it back on the track with that change enabled, and we'll see if that makes any difference. It shouldn't do. I'm just running all of the other bits and pieces back. And I'm going to bring up a throttle. So here we have the throttle for this little loco, and forwards. That was interesting. Seemed to start up quite a lot quicker and then slow down. Let's try that again. Backwards. There we are. The magic smoke has just escaped from the decoder. With a lovely odour. So I think I know, yeah, I think I've identified what the problem is there. The decoder's dead. So something... Oh, a lovely odour from that. Yes, something in there has burnt out. Look, you can see that's... Yes. So, don't know what that is, but something is shorted out somewhere, and that's burnt the decoder out. So anyway, that there endeth the the diagnostics lesson. She's now offline pending a new decoder, because that'll be dead. Well, at least I'm virtually certain that'll be dead. Quick try. Yeah, that's a faulty decoder. So, yeah. Interesting. She was working, so something somewhere has shorted. I'm wondering, could be something down there somewhere that's shorted out. Okay, well that's her done. So, yeah, that was slightly quicker than I was expecting. I'm going to take that motor off and I'm going to have a little look. Let's see. I don't want to order a new decoder and fit that and then find out that blows up as well. So, let's have a little look. Bring my light back around so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm fairly sure it's this screw that holds this part of it together. I could be wrong. It seems to be bringing that up and that, which is good because that means the whole decoder is going to separate. There we are. Little insulating pocket down there. I'm wondering if that, it shouldn't do because nothing's changed and it was working fine. See, that's a clip piece that did go onto there and I've cut that short. I'm wondering whether I didn't quite cut that short enough and something's moved, and that something moving has caused this to go bang, because that goes leastwise, I think. Yeah, that goes there because there's a little peg for it to sit on. Sorry, put that back where you can see it. Yeah, that sits under there. I suspect that hasn't cut back short enough, and somehow along the line it started catching. I don't see why it would have worked forwards but not backwards though. That is somewhat curious. And the motor's fine. Doesn't seem to be taking more power one way than the other to turn it. But with smoke having come out of the decoder, I'm definitely going to say that's probably dead. That's a wire inside there's shorted out, which is possible. So let's take this tape off. Yeah, you can see where it's melted there. One of the driver MOSFETs has failed or is shorted and overheated. I can't see any of the shorts on the wiring is the other thing I'm looking for. So I suspect I may just have to clip that a little bit more, put it back together, and then that will be it for the evening on here, unfortunately. It's a pity. I quite like this little loco, so I will be getting her working again. So if I now chop that shorter, that'll do. So yeah, that piece then goes back into little slots on there, and that's obviously the live chassis pickup. Is that side, and then this side we have a nice insulated pickup. Let's make sure all the wires are free of everything they need to be free of. And that goes back on there. Those go back. Alright, that clips under there. It's quite a clever design. Yeah. Right, so that's that. So I'll put the screw back on. I'm going to find my meter and I'm going to do a few little checks just to make sure some of these aren't shorted. But it is possible. I mean, it could well be something that was fine to start with, and then later on has moved, and it's just shorted out slightly. And there's a bit of insulation here, which stops that contact touching the chassis block. This side piece here is all up against plastic. This side here, there's a gap, so that one should be fine as well. There's a tiny little space there. It's not contacting. I mean, in theory it could, which might... No. So if you see, get the screwdriver, this bit of bronze has to be insulated from the chassis, and there's a space there. It can touch. And I'm wondering if it has at some point. Although that's shorting the two rails together if it does. So that shouldn't affect the decoder. Obviously it can, but it shouldn't. So but that, if I zoom in a little, that's where it's burnt out. So yeah, this MX600R, I think it is. Yes, it's got a problem. The smoke has escaped through that hole. The reason all the smoke came out the end is I had some heatproof tape around it. Right, meter. Let's have a little look. Because if one of those, there's 4 of those little components, and they make up an H bridge that controls the motor. And if one of them has failed, it could explain why. Because if the system's going forwards, it's putting a pulse width modulation on/off in one direction. Otherwise, it's putting it in the other. So I'm just going to try that to there. Don't have any short circuits there. That contact is not shorted to either side, and of course I now can't get at the other contact. Yeah, anyway, but if that one's alright. So let me just grab a little bit of paper and I'll show you vaguely what I think has happened. So if I again, that is blank. Yeah, it's not blank, but it'll do. Right. Let's move my light out of the way, otherwise I can't see what I'm doing. So, slight lesson on how these motor controllers work. A little bit impromptu, but there we go. So we have, try and find a pen that works. It's Leopard Street all over, really. Anyway, motor. So you have a motor that sits in the middle, and this is why it's called a H bridge, because have a look at what it looks like. H bridge because it looks like a figure of 8. Yeah, anyway, I need, forget the symbols. I needed to draw the MOSFET symbols in here, but never mind. So positive, negative. If that's on and that's on, current flows that way. If that's on and that's on, current flows that way. If they're both on together, you've got a short circuit and you've got a problem. So what you have is a controller that knows how to do these, and it'll turn them all off and then it'll turn the others on. Now, to go forwards, like I say, you might put, say, 1 and 1 on, and to control the speed, you're doing that. It's pulse width modulation, fairly straightforward. Effectively between 0 and plus. To go the other way, you do 2, and again you pulse width it. Now you feed into the control box the same signal, you just tell it I want it to go the other way round. This would explain why she runs forwards but not backwards. If, say, these 2 are the forwards ones, they're fine, no problems. So I'll just move that so it comes on screen again. Zoom back out, that might help. Yeah. So they're fine. This little one that's burnt out for whatever reason is one of the other 2. So she can run fine forwards. Something somewhere has gone wrong. So when she's running the other way, say that one's fine. If say that's the faulty one, that's fine. That is now overheating for some reason and has gone pop. Eventually that'll just stop working altogether. And what you find is she'll still run forwards fine, because these are never used. She would never be able to run backwards. So yeah, that's going to be a new decoder. But it would explain why she can run forwards, which I'm just going to have another little test of. So if I put her into... Yeah. She runs forwards, but I think those chips do other things as well. There's another problem. Ouch. Bang my knee on something under the desk. There's another problem, is the acceleration and deceleration functioning has just disappeared. So yeah, she can run forwards. She's obviously not reading the back EMF, which gives her that to read the speed control on here. So the onboard chip has got no idea how fast she's running, so she just goes straight to normal speed instead of trying to accelerate. Decoder dead. Needs a new decoder. I'd love to say that's the first one I've blown up, but it's not. I've blown up several Hornby ones in the past. Right, so I need to put my little friend here back together, basically so I don't end up losing parts. So I'm just going to put this tape back round, just to hold all these wires together so they don't trap and short on anything else. And then we are going to be noting this one as needing a new part, which I have to order. I need to order some more anyway, actually. Not just for little friend here. I've got a couple of other locos that need decoders. So let me just remember how this goes back in. The space is quite narrow, so that's like that. And then that's not going to go together because she's jamming on something again. I think I did have this actually. Cat hair. Cat hair because of course there's a cat hair. It's one thing this house is not short of, is cat hair. It does not want to go back in. I suspect because it's trying to go in sideways like that and it doesn't want to. So yeah, that's reasons best known to itself, not wanting to play along now. Yeah, the problem is these wire at the back. So two little hooks, and they go into two little holes on the front of the chassis. Or they should do. There we are. That's in. It's that. There we are. Back together. So I should just put the couplings back on, because if I don't, I'll forget where they are. But yes, slightly disappointing there, but we shall see. She's going to get a new decoder. So it means instead of ordering one of them, I'll have to order, well, I think what I need, I've got, there's an old B12 that needs setting up with its, I think it's an XO3 motor, which I suspect will be reasonably noisy, but it'll run. And I start wondering, is it actually worth spending 25 quid on a decoder for a locomotive that cost me less than 25 quid to buy on eBay? Thing is, I bought it to use it. I didn't buy the thing just to sit it on a shelf and never run. So I think I probably will. So yeah, so there's a B12, there's another N2, which may or may not be as noisy as the existing one. And then there's the, what else have I got? Oh yeah, a J70 something or other. Right, so anyway, for now, he is going to get suitably marked up with a pen that doesn't want to work on there. Use a pen that will work on there. There we go. Not to be run. Okay, so with her not to be run, I'm going to reset a few things. I'm going to run something else. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, a couple of trains going. Yes, a slightly shorter goods train there with the rest of it sitting in the siding. And Scotsman trundling around at a slightly more sedate speed to try and control the noise. So, what else have we got? Well, there's these things. These are LD1117AV33s. These are 3.3 volt regulators. If I'm slowing down again. If I point down here at my control board, that ESP32 is being fed 5 volts. Well, it's being fed currently about 4.5 volts, and it's trying to produce 3.3 volts off that. The onboard regulator is struggling a little. What I'm thinking of doing is producing my own 5 volt power supply and feeding it directly, and I'm going to see if that makes any difference. Hence why I've got some power regulators. So yeah, that's what they're for, and then there is a heat sink. What these things do, you put a voltage in on one pin, you get a voltage out on the other pin's ground, you put a couple of capacitors next to it, and it will drop. Those ones are about 1 volt, 1 to 1.5 volts. So about 1.1 I think those ones are supposed to be. So if I have got 4.5 volts, I should be able to get at least 3.3 out of the thing. However, there is another option, which is why I've got these things, which are heat sinks. Linear regulator, what it does, current in and current out are the same. So if I'm taking, say, 50 milliamps out, I don't know how much these boards take, maybe 100 milliamps out, I'll be drawing 100 milliamps in, but at a higher voltage. So that excess power goes somewhere in the form of heat, put a heat sink on it, and as long as it's not too big, not really a problem. It's not particularly efficient, but it'll work. So that's the idea there. Because if need be, I can run these off the 12 volt circuit I've got, which can definitely give it the voltage. What I'm hoping then is I can get a stable voltage into the thing, and I should get more reliable running with a bit of luck. That's a job for when I get a bit of time. I've got the bits. These little chips are PCF 8575s. Is the actual microchips rather than the breakout boards. I'm going to be having a go at a virtual signal box soon. So I want some switches. So basically, instead of having to turn behind me, come back around here every time I want to change a point, move the mouse around and click it on there. All I want is buttons like that I can just press with some lights telling me where things are going. So those little PCF 8574 chips I've been using, well, there's one of those little breakout boards, the 8575s, a 16 channel one. Making 16 channels, 8 buttons, 8 lights. One of them can control 4 points. So four buttons for closed, 4 buttons for thrown, 4 LEDs for each state. That'll do. Daisy chain a couple of them together. Simple controller. Can talk to the MQTT system, and I can drive bits of the layout with it, with actual buttons. I could do it with touch screens, but I like the idea of buttons. Just because I like the idea of buttons, really. And it's, how we go. that's for the future. For the near future, I'll come around here. This will hopefully be the next video coming up. Is a bit more work down here. I've got this area here. Now, there's this cutout. That's going to be a road coming underneath to about there, and it's then going to carry on. It'll T-junction into that. I've got a nice space here where I'm hoping to put a pub. There's obviously going to be retaining walls, and there's going to be some stairs going along there, coming up here to where the signal box is. Basically, I want to get that bit done. Then I can sort of get this back area here finished off. The train's coming around looking rather nice. Disappearing through there. Eventually back here will be darker. It's going to have a station sitting on top. What I might do is put like a little curtain down the side. Oh, something's just reset again. So I think I'm going to go back to where I can get the controls just in case. Although I can kill the power with that little red button at any time. Like this. These two trains have stopped rather suddenly, and if I press that, it restarts. And that's what those red buttons are for, which I promise I will get around to doing something with. There's lots and lots of little jobs on this layout that I want to do. There's a massive job coming up as well. But, where there's boards of grey, that's going to get an extension fitted on the inside. Not a huge one, but enough I can bring. It's just going to have scenery on it. The big job is the upper deck, which is going to be slightly more challenging, I must say. That's one for the future. Anyway, so with that, the locomotive sitting over there, he's somewhat sorry for himself. Large problem being, I realised I don't actually have anywhere to put like a poorly locomotive. What I need to do is just sort out just a piece of track that I can sit such things on. A little job for the future. It doesn't have to be anywhere fancy. It's certainly not going to be fitted or powered up anywhere. It just needs to sit somewhere. So yeah. Anyway, channel now 940 subscribers. Thank you all very, very much. The magic 1,000 is approaching. We'll get there at some point. I'm not. Please subscribe. Yeah. If you want to subscribe, please do. If you don't worry about it. Anyway, that's this is being filmed on Friday. This will be going up Saturday. There will be another one on Tuesday, which will, like I say, be seeing it work over there. The key bit for that, because obviously you've seen me now stick bits of cardboard to the desk, is going to be to build the bridge. That should be interesting. Stay tuned for that one. Otherwise, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will catch you all next week. Thank you very much and goodbye.